If I was writing a cookbook, this recipe would definitely be in it. Part 12, Black Bean Soup, Cuban style. If you're looking for a recipe that is delicious and healthy and inexpensive and even better the next day, this is the perfect recipe for you. I love the soup for many reasons, but one of them is because it's so inexpensive. In order to keep it cheap, I use dried beans. That means the night before that I make this soup, I let them soak overnight. And that's what would be happening in a perfect world. But since this is not a perfect world, I did not get to soak these beans overnight. That means I woke up early in the morning and I soaked the beans with hot water from the kettle for a few hours, about 5 hours. Now, I don't understand all the mechanics of bean soaking, and I've watched about a million videos of different people with all their different techniques, but I know with this recipe, I can get a tender bean that's delicious, not mealy, and really easy to work with. This recipe began with 1 pound of dried beans, but then I decided if you're going to make it once, you might as well make it a bunch of times. You have some stuff to freeze. So I wound up soaking 4 pounds of beans. So in this recipe video, I'm making 4 times the normal amount. In the recipe that I'm going to put down in the description, that will just be for a single recipe. So it'll be 1/4 of what you're seeing in the video version. So you're going to start with the aromatics. You're going to need 2 medium onions chopped up finely, 2 green peppers chopped, and you can use anywhere between 4 to 8 cloves of garlic. Now, since I was making 4 times a regular version, and since I really, really love garlic, I used 2 heads of garlic, which was like 32 cloves of garlic. It was really good. But maybe there's some normal people out there that just want a normal amount of garlic. So you choose between 4 to 8 cloves. Garlic, onion, and green peppers are often referred to as the trinity of Cuban cooking. They are a classic base for many Cuban savory dishes. While I was chopping my aromatics, I started cooking the beans. I drained the beans that I had soaked for 4 to 5 hours beforehand, and I put them in a very large pot because, again, I was making 4 times the normal version. And I covered them with 2 quarts of water per pound, and then I brought it to a boil. After I brought it to a boil, I reduced the heat to low, covered it, and cooked it for about an hour. While the beans were cooking, I got out a large pot and I put in half a cup of olive oil and then added my aromatics to it, starting with the onions and the pepper first, allowing it to cook for a few minutes on medium to medium high heat, get a little bit of color, become fragrant, a little bit translucent. Then I lowered the heat to a medium low, added in my minced cloves of garlic, along with a teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of cumin, a tablespoon of salt, and about a half a teaspoon to a full teaspoon of black pepper. Cook for an additional 3 to 4 minutes and then add the entire mixture of onions, peppers, garlic, and spices along with the olive oil. Add it to the pot of beans and allow that to continue to cook for, again, about an hour, but you keep checking those beans to see if they're tender enough. I've heard that older beans don't cook as quickly. I don't know if that's true, but I just always check on it to make sure I'm not undercooking or overcooking them. I almost forgot, you need to add a bay leaf too to the mixture as it's cooking. Even though I use this ridiculously large pot, not all of the sautéed vegetables fit in there. So I left some of them in the other pot while the larger pot was cooking. As the liquid reduces, I'm going to add that back in. So I love Cuban food, and I myself am not Cuban, but actually Cuban food was the first type of food that I learned how to cook. A long, long, long time ago, I was dating somebody who was Cuban, and he was in the military. And where he was stationed in New York, in Long Island, where we both had lived at the time, there were no Cuban restaurants. So I wanted to have him have a sense of home or something that was familiar. And that's why I began to learn Cuban cooking. Both of his parents were originally from Cuba, so he grew up with a lot of delicious Cuban food. I do have a strong sentimental feeling about Cuban food, although I don't have it very often. It's very rare that I eat meat, and a lot of Cuban food I found had a lot of basis for meat. There's obviously a lot of bean dishes as well, which I love. But I used to eat Cuban food a lot. Now it's rare and it's a treat, and this is one of my favorite versions of Cuban food. As it continues to cook for that hour, you're just going to keep an eye on the soup, checking for doneness. And when the beans are tender, what you're going to do is turn off the heat. Then you're going to add in a tablespoon of garlic powder and a tablespoon of red wine vinegar. And this time, you're also going to adjust for salt. So I tend to prefer a little bit saltier. So I did add a little bit more salt, but you're going to choose your own level of saltiness. What I like to do is take a few ladlefuls of the soup, making sure I don't get any bay leaves in there. I put it in another container and I use an immersion blender to make it smoother and a little bit creamier. I found the easiest way to clean an immersion blender, aka a sponge destroyer, is to put a little bit of water and soap in that same container, run the immersion blender, and there, it's clean. And that's it, your soup's done. All you have to do is fish out the bay leaf, or you could just tell people to fend for themselves and fish it out of their bowl if they happen to get one. And you've got a delicious, vegan, gluten-free, inexpensive, full of fiber, lots of antioxidants soup. You could have it just plain and it would be lovely. But if you're feeling fancy, you could put on some toppings. My favorite way I've ever had black bean soup was at a restaurant called the Colombian down by like Tampa Bay in Florida. And they served it with chopped hard-boiled egg on top, and I thought it was so good. So you could add chopped hard-boiled egg, you could add rice, a squeeze of lime, you could do cheese, you could do sour cream, you could do like roasted cauliflower. That would be so good. There's lots of different options. Salsa with chips, pickled radishes. The possibilities are endless. So now there's the 6 questions I ask about every recipe that I make. The first one is, how does it taste? I love it. I love beans, so it's right up my alley. And I think that it tastes delicious. It's so comforting. It's lovely. I really like soup. So it's a 10 out of 10 for me. Then I ask myself, is it easy? Yeah, it's pretty easy. The only thing that might be a little intimidating is working with the dried beans, but I find this is like a good beginner-friendly way to work with dried beans. Then I ask myself, is it quick? No, it's not quick because you have to soak the beans beforehand, although you could use canned beans if you wanted to, and you have to cook it for an hour. So I wouldn't call this a quick recipe. Then I ask myself, can I make it in bulk? And as you see here, yes, you can. I made a quadruple recipe. Then I ask myself, can I freeze it? Sure can. That's why I made so much of it. Actually, today I defrosted some of it. I'm going to take that soup, cook it down to get more of the moisture out. I'm going to use it for a black bean dip. It's going to be great. Lastly, I asked myself about the cost. And that recipe costs about $3 to $3.50 for all the ingredients. So I made a quadruple recipe, and that big, giant, ridiculous stock pot cost about $12 to $14. So I think that's a great deal. The night that we had it for dinner, I served 8 people with that soup, and everybody got to take some home, and we froze some here. Had it with one of the world's easiest bread recipes that I have. That's an olive bread, and that was under $1. So I fed 8 people for like $5. I love a good deal. If you try it, I hope you enjoy it.